Hey, 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 Fit Mama. Jen Oliver here, your host of the Fit Mama podcast. This is the work in to your workout. Hey, Fit Mama. I am excited to introduce you to someone that I have known now for a few years, and I'm excited to interview her, particularly about her level of courage. She is none other than Maggie Chilton, and she is a courageous empowerment coach. She actually empowers women to get out of their own way so that they can harmonize their hormones and courageously create the life of their dreams. Maggie works closely with women to implement strategies to help them lose weight, move on from a relationship that has been holding them back, and help them discover their beauty and inner wisdom. We talk all about moving on from a relationship that's been holding them back, specifically with her story in this episode, which I'm really excited to share with you because she really is courageous in her parting ways with this particular relationship. And what she's really passionate about is seeing women courageously create amazing lives. And I love the work that she does because she does work intimately with women, helping them live more fully and wholeheartedly with what she calls ease and grace. And this is such an important topic because so often women are in a situation, and we as Fit Mamas are in situations that we think we cannot get out of. And in fact, we actually can. So we're going to dive deep in this episode, all about courage, what it takes to do things that you may not think at this point that you can do, but I know that you can. So get ready for my interview today with Maggie Chilton, courageous empowerment coach. Here we go. Hey, 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 welcome Fit Mamas. Here we are with none other than Maggie Chilton. I am so excited to introduce you to her. Hey, Maggie.
Hi, Jen. How are you?
I am great. Thank you so much for being here, Maggie. You are someone who I am absolutely inspired by, and you and I have connected on many levels through our mutual love for nutrition and health and all the things related to that. And, you know, you and I, we never really saw each other in person much, but we've been online friends, and that's the power of online. And that's why I want to bring you to the Fit Mamas today, because you have a really positive, enthusiastic, inspiring presence online. And it's a great thing to be a part of. So I can't wait to get into your story today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, and thank you so much for inviting me. You remember this, but you were actually a mentor of mine not that long ago. So that's how we started.
I love it. I know. And you've always inspired me. So we're going to get into that and how you kind of got where you are right now through the ups and downs of life. You are a mom yourself. Tell us about, a bit about where you've been and how you came to where you are right now, Maggie.
So let's start with the elephant in the room. I have a bit of a different accent. So that comes from, so I am Canadian, but I grew up in England and I spent a year in Australia about 19 years ago. So people don't really know where I'm from, but that's kind of where I'm from.
And
I came back to live in Canada 19 years ago, starting off on the West Coast for 14 years and then on the East Coast for the last 5 years.
Wow.
And I have two boys. They are almost 11 and 12, and they're just phenomenal. They're just amazing.
That's so great. And you're so inspiring with them. I mean, I've followed your journey for a while. You are a registered holistic nutritionist. You have had some journeys with your sons and their health, let's say health in general with nutrition. Can you talk to that a little bit? I mean, we're out here as Fit Mamas. We're trying to feed our kids the best we can, and getting them to eat some of those, nutritious things sometimes can be a challenge. So talk to us about your experience, Maggie.
It started when my son was about 3. He was a little older than 3. And my partner and I at the time, we went away for the weekend. And this was sort of the catalyst. Before that, he wasn't saying sentences. He was mumbling. He just wasn't where he should be for a 3-year-old.
Okay.
Yeah, we came back 2 days later and we came in and his eyes were red and watering and he was red, like a red face. And at that point in time, I knew that something was wrong. Something wasn't right going on in his body. So we did the usual route. We took him to the medical doctor. We had him tested for autism because he wasn't saying full sentences. He was affectionate, but he was also a little bit distant. So we had him tested for autism. It turns out that he didn't have autism because he was a little too affectionate. But at the time he was going through that, which is very strange, he had, we didn't know, he had an ear infection. So apparently he'd had a couple of these and I didn't know that he had them. And so he was dealing with not being able to hear, which is probably why he had a speech delay, because he couldn't hear.
Totally.
And then we went to see a naturopath and we did the allergy testing, and it was sort of the usual dairy, wheat, etc. And we just preface this by saying his diet at that point in time, bearing in mind I knew nothing about nutrition, what is it now, 8 years ago, it was sort of cheese, chicken, pasta. That was about it.
Okay.
Like there was only certain things that he would eat, and he wouldn't eat anything else. And I just thought that was normal for him. And so we had this allergy testing, and during this time, a friend of mine had introduced me to the Weston A. Price Foundation. And that was all about eating raw dairy, organic meats, everything that was nutritious, whole foods, preferably organic. And it had sort of sat in my mind for a while, and I sort of ummed and ahed about it. And then when all this came down, I thought, okay, this is not leading me down the path I want to go. I don't want to go down the medical route. Something has to change. So I just jumped on board this, and we changed our diets 100%. We were living on the East Coast, so I consider myself fortunate enough, that it's either political or not, but I consider myself fortunate enough to be able to be involved in a cow share. So we could have raw milk, and I could make raw butter. And we got grass-fed, local, organic meats and organic vegetables. And that's how we started. And within 3 weeks, he said his first sentence.
Whoa.
And I remember it stopped me dead, and I was like, what did you just say? And that was a light bulb moment went on for me then. I thought, okay, there's something to this food thing.
Yeah.
Because we were eating processed food before, like pizza and just a regular, quote unquote, North American diet.
Yeah.
I didn't know any different. And we changed his diet 100%, and it was like a light bulb went on in him and in me. And from then on, I was hooked. It was
and how hard was it to change his diet? I mean, I know I'm hearing people out there going, yeah, my kid won't eat that if I make it.
So I take a very different stance on this. And a lot of the times I just have to not say anything, because my stance was, and still is, I am not making you a separate meal. If you don't want to eat it, you don't eat it. And so it was actually quite funny, because I would make dinner, we'd all sit around the table, and if he didn't want to eat it at that point in time, we would say, okay, go to your room then. So he'd go to his room. And it actually at one point came to the point where he would walk to the table, look at the plate, and just walk upstairs. So he knew that whatever's on that plate, if he didn't like it, they're going to ask me to go to my room. So I went to her, because he would kick up a fuss. Right. So he just went to his room. But let's just say he's almost 11 now, and he is, he's flourishing. They do eat.
Yeah. So he eventually sits down and eats those things when he sees them a number of times, or he gets hungry enough.
And now he is the health advocate. He's like, I want to eat healthy, Mommy. Oh, you can't have that. That's not organic. Or, he's kind of like not the organic police, but he's very tuned in to food, what he eats, how it affects his body. And
so he's aware, he's self-aware, and he feels the effects of eating something that doesn't agree with him.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Now, my then 5-year-old was a bit more difficult, right? When they're 5, they're a little bit more ingrained.
Yeah.
It's harder for them to transition. Yeah. So with him, it's been a little bit different.
Okay.
But I have never in my adulting life ever made a separate meal. They didn't want to eat it. They didn't eat it.
Good job, Mama. Wow. I cannot say the same for myself. Good for you.
I'm like, I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm doing everything else and I'm cooking. If you don't like it, okay.
Yeah. It's not my deal today that I'm going to worry about that. I like that a lot. So eventually they eat it. That is, you know what? That is really good. And I will say the same for my own. I mean, You offer. After a while, they try it. After a while, they go, hey, this is actually good. They see you eating it enough times. And that is, I think, part of it is that they see you eating it. It's not like you're putting a broccoli on their plate and you're eating a bag of chips. It's They see you eating it. This is what we're eating, and that's how it rolls. And I think that's really, really effective. I definitely know that for sure. So yeah, good one. Thank you. So talk to us a little bit about, how you got into, like you said, 8 years ago, you didn't know anything about nutrition. And so you had these 2 kids, you had your partner, you were like, something's got to change. You changed things. And all of a sudden, things were changing. You now decided you wanted to go back to school and learn about nutrition. What were you doing at that time?
Well, no, I was running my business from home. So I've been an entrepreneur for a while.
Okay.
And then it was sort of like a thing that I was talking to my partner about moving to Ontario, because my family lived in Ontario, as did his. But we were in BC when we met, and we lived there. So for some reason, out of the blue, he's like, yeah, let's move to Ontario. So I was like, okay. And then we moved in June. And in August, I'd signed up for the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition, which was here in London. Oh. We could have gone anywhere in Ontario, but his mom lived here, so we chose London.
Okay.
And they happened to have a school here in London.
Perfect.
So it was right. It was almost like it was just made to be.
Wow, I love that. So you took the course. It was a couple years, and you pivoted your business.
1 year full time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
And this is sort of going on to a bit of a different topic, but so I thought I was doing really well, thought I had my stuff together, and then went to school, was halfway through it, and my hormones just took a tank. It was just like, it was the tipping point for me going back to school.
Oh.
Hence what I do now. I'm sure we'll get to that.
Yes.
But what I did, and that was what was the tipping point for my stress point, was going back to school, because it was full on, as well as raising a family, being a partner, running my own business.
Okay, so that's where I want to take us back to for a sec, because I know as Fit Mamas, we have these really great inspirations, right? Like, I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to study this. I'm going to pursue this, right? We have these exciting moments, and I'm a huge proponent of going back to school and doing all the things. And then we kind of get a bit in over our heads, so to speak, because we think we're, 20 and we don't have 2 kids or whatever. And I spend my life inspiring people to take those bold moves, even though it's going to be hard, to go do it. Because at the end of the day, the person you become on the way to those goals is that huge, new, great, exciting you, right? So I love that, because you are, an upgraded version of the you that you were back then, right? In that way where you pursued and you learned and you wanted to know more and you wanted to feed your family better and you wanted to help their health, etc. So you had this really big motivation. And I want to bring it back to, you took the big leap, you did the big scary thing, but what comes with that? Right? You did the thing that's big and scary, which was go back to school as a mom and take your time and energy to do that. And then look what these sort of consequences. So I'm not saying that as just to scare the other women, right? I don't want people to be scared away by doing this. I want them to be inspired by this. So talk to us a little bit about the stress and the sort of roller coaster that you endured at that point. And then, yes, how you came out of that, because I know that you're on the other side. And so you can provide that view, the vision, the hindsight that's 2020, right? So,
and it's funny when you said about, you took the step and you were fearless and you did that. And that step I took was nothing compared to the past 12 months, but we'll get there. So that was kind of like the mini step in a way. But yeah, I absolutely love being in school. I love every single second of every single day. Could not be there often enough. Was it hard? Absolutely. How old was I? 47 when I did it. I've had 2 children. I'm thinking, my first thought was, how am I going to remember anything in order to take an exam? That was my biggest fear, is how am I going to remember anything? And you find ways. Like, I would write notes and I would walk on the treadmill and I would read my notes and I would do whatever it took to show up, be courageous, and write those exams.
Good for you.
And, did I get a distinction on my qualification? No. Did I pass? Yes.
Yeah.
That was what was the most important thing for me. And not only did I pass, I was voted valedictorian for my class.
Wow.
I was 47.
Wow.
Valedictorian for my class. I was like,
you were keener. You were top keener.
But then I had to ask,
I know you.
what is a valedictorian? Because we don't have those.
Cute.
But the class that I went into was amazing. Every single one of the students that I was with was phenomenal, bar none. They were just amazing. And to this day, 3 of them, my absolute best friends.
Oh, I love that. That is wonderful. Wow, that is cool. And then how young you must have felt hanging out with all the young people? Were young people doing the courses that you were taking, or it was all ages?
No, there were, I would say, maybe 2 younger. We had one lady who was in her 60s.
Cool.
Who was actually an extremely good friend of mine.
Cute.
Like, I don't see her as that age group at all.
That's cool.
But
I love older, inspiring women, too, in that way, that are doing stuff.
She's phenomenal. If you're listening to this, you know who you are.
I love it.
But most of them were sort of in the 30, 35 range.
Okay.
So I didn't feel super old, but I was one of the older ones for sure.
So talk to us about this stress and that hormone cascade that came with it. Because, like we said, most people go to school in their 20s and they're like, I can stay up all night studying for an exam and it won't affect me at all, physically, mentally, right? When you're 47, you don't do that. Yeah.
Yeah, when you hit like 35, those days are gone.
You don't do that anymore.
Yeah. And so for me, I've been under it, unbeknownst but known to me. It was subconscious, but it was almost conscious. For the past 8 years, I knew that I was extremely stressed.
Okay.
And I had my children fairly close together. So I was 38 when I had my first one, 39 when I had my second. Okay. So very close together.
Yeah.
And I was not nutritionally at perfection during the pregnancies and the 8 years after. And the tipping point for me was going back to school. And I was about halfway through, maybe not quite halfway. And what I noticed first was my periods change. Like, it was like, oh my goodness, what is going on? And it's what they term flooding. So extremely heavy for a good 5 days.
Gosh.
And this went on for my year in school. And I never really put much thought into it. I just thought, okay, this is something I'm going through. This is a stress response. But the longer it went on and the more I learned about perimenopause and things that stress can do, I learned that this is not, quote unquote, normal.
Yeah.
This is, it's an estrogen dominant symptom and it's brought on by stress, et cetera, et cetera. So school for me changed me in many, many, many different ways. I would say 90% for the good. There was a little bit that's probably not, but that's how it physically changed me. Like, it changed me. It pushed me over the edge. That was my tipping point into perimenopause because of the stress and everything else I had to.
So it kind of triggered.
Encompass.
Yeah. Okay. And so how did you feel in that moment? Because here you were learning all about it, but your body was kind of doing its own thing. So then what?
Well, for me, it was super interesting.
Yeah.
Because what is going on?
Investigated. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it allowed me to go to my MD and be able to ask for the testing that I needed because I knew what I was talking about. And I say that to my clients a lot. That's the difference. If you go into your MD and you say, okay, I'd like my thyroid tested, my T4, my reverse T3, reverse T4 antibodies. If you can back that up with why you want that, they're more likely to say, oh yeah, that makes sense. Rather than if you say, I don't know, I heard it somewhere. So I went in there armed with the information that I needed.
Awesome.
I had an ultrasound, but I knew I needed a transvaginal ultrasound in order to see what was going on in the uterus.
Yeah.
And, little things like that really help women go the extra mile and find out, not be satisfied with what your MD tells you, because my MD knew nothing about hormones.
Right.
She just didn't know anything. And then I was referred to a specialist, and he really didn't know anything. So that was a time of transition. But I educated myself, and I found out why things were triggered, what was going on, and for me, that was very empowering.
Yeah,
and it allowed me to be courageous. Yeah, and take control of my own health.
Totally. Yeah. And, while Google is not a replacement for doctor or medical advice or, meeting with your healthcare practitioner, it is a very empowering tool to get some answers, like you said, to say, hey, I'm having fatigue, extreme bleeding, blah, 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 and this could be a possibility. Hey, can we test for this? Is a really benign way of doing things. And if you approach it the right way with your doctor or whomever, it can be taken very well. And I know doctors are on alert now for people self-diagnosing. So it's not, it's nothing new. So you started doing the nutritional things, taking better care of yourself, I guess, in that point, so that you were able to get through the symptoms. Tell us about that.
For me, it wasn't a question of getting through the symptoms. It was really finding out the root cause. And it took me a while to find out what the root cause of my symptoms was. Okay. And it was staring me right in the face. Like, it was so obvious that it was my relationship. We talk about the uterus being sort of the place of creativity, and, because that's where we grow people. That's where our creative soul sits. And so if that's been hampered for whatever reason, either you're not being given the love that you need, want, deserve, whatever you want to call that, you're not able to give it yourself, you're not able to receive it, etc., then that tends to be the area that is affected the most, particularly in women. It's that because we, as women, we're caregivers. We're taught to care for other people, not necessarily ourselves. Mm-hmm. So when we start to look at ourselves and say, am I taking care of myself? Am I loving myself? Am I living my life the way I want to live it, in a way that I want to live it? And if the answer is no, then we really need to question what we're doing in our lives and how those symptoms are showing up in our bodies, because our bodies will give you signs, and they'll give you numerous signs, like it did with me, until it shouts at you and says, you know what, if you're not going to pay attention, I'm going to make you pay attention. Mm-hmm. So we got to the point where I had a blood test, and I got a call from the doctor, and I was like, that's not normal. Mm-hmm. So I got a call, and they said, you need to go in for a blood transfusion, like today. So in a space of, I think it was a year, I had one blood transfusion, and then it was okay, but it was just a patch. It wasn't.
So you were losing so much blood from your periods?
Exactly. Yeah. But I knew enough to say, hang on a second, that's not going to help me get my hair back, because my hair had fallen out. It's not going to help me feel more energetic and feel better. What I need, and what I needed then, was an iron infusion.
Right.
And because I knew what was going on with me, and I could explain it to my MD, she's like, yeah, I agree. And then it was about a year later when I started to feel the same tiredness. And I knew then what it felt like before, I knew what it felt like again. And I called her and I said, this is happening again. So I had my blood work done again, and my ferritin was like a 3. And your ferritin should be around 70 to 90. Oh, mine was a 3. Wow. So she's like, yep, we did this before. You know what you're doing. Yeah, let's get another one. So I had another one and felt amazing. Right. But because I'm very in tune with what's going on with my body now.
Right. Okay. So how did you make the connection that it was your relationship that was causing you this physical thing? Because now we're bridging something, right? So most people would be like, okay, I'm having all these physical things. I'm going to go to the doctor. There must be polyps. There must be this. There must be that. Something else is wrong physically. I need this. I need the pill. I need another something. And you looked at things and said, something's not helping me here. So tell us about the connection you made there, because that's what I'm curious about.
Hey, Fit Mama. This is Jen here, interrupting this quickly just to let you know that Maggie Chilton created a journal. And here I am interviewing her on today's episode, and I really want to make sure I take a separate moment to highlight this journal, to remind you to click the link in the show notes to get your copy of this journal, where every single day there are multiple little areas to fill out about how you stayed active, about what you're grateful for, about filling in your positive daily self-beliefs, and some of the most important things that are going on for you right now, as well as your water intake, how you're feeling today. There's an awesome quote on every page and a weekly review that's really, really great too. So you can take time to reflect on the past 7 days with each week that goes by. This is a really handy journal. She calls this Courageously Creating Your Life. And it's a personal wellness journal that I personally have used. And I really, really enjoy those little daily connections to your personal things that are most important to you, particularly what you feel grateful for. And I'm always sharing this idea of gratitude with people and taking a specific time each day to write down something or some things that you are grateful for is supremely positively impactful. And I love that Maggie's involved that in her Courageous Action Journal. This is something I highly recommend. I would go and check that out in the show notes ASAP if I were you, because you can too be filling out this journal every single day, such that in a short month's time, it's only a 30-day journal, you can be somewhere completely different than you are right now. And if that's something that really inspires you, is writing it down, as I know it does for me, having a journal that's just 30 days can really invoke some action, where some of those year-long journals feel like that's just too much time or too much, or these big things that you're not even sure you're ever going to get to. Whereas the 30-day journal that Maggie created is such an action-oriented journal. So I encourage you to get that. Now we'll get back to the interview with Maggie Chilton herself.
Because I'm sure a lot of people can identify that a relationship might be causing them physical angst. And it doesn't necessarily have to be their partner, but every time I call my mother, every time I talk to my brother, every time I see that person, I get a knot in my stomach. I become ill, et cetera, et cetera. But a lot of people don't make that connection per se.
You know, and when that happens, your hormones fire, right? And every time you even think of that person, your hormones will fire and it will shoot out a hormone, right? That's what happens.
Yeah.
The more times you do that, the more times you're going to be in that fight or flight response. And for me, I was always in that fight or flight response. There was never a rest and digest. It would never go down. I constantly had that knot in my stomach. I was constantly on edge. I was constantly had this feeling of something's not right. And for me, the catalyst was I went to an event and let's just say there was some people on the stage, and I literally I had a light bulb moment, and I looked at these people and I said, I'm not the one that's broken. It's my relationship. Now, if you want to break that down, that means that I was attracted to somebody on the stage. So for the past, to be honest, let's say the past 12 years. I mean, with my partner was never really the relationship that I wanted. Like it wasn't, I see your relationship. I'm like, man, what must that feel like? I never had that. Rightly or wrongly, we were pregnant with Maxwell 4 months after we met. We never got that chance to know each other.
Right.
But having said that, I knew exactly who he was going into this. Yeah. So I was not blind. But you put those things to the back of your mind and you think,
you have the fairy tale mindset. Yeah.
He's going to change. I'll change him. It's all going to be good. Well, it's not. And so I went to this event and I thought, wow, I'm actually attracted to that person. Why am I not attracted to my partner? I actually thought it was my testosterone. I thought my testosterone must be so low that I have zero sex drive. But that was not the case.
So
I realized that it was the partner.
Say
it wasn't
that. Me. Yeah. You know what? That's a big one. And I think it's something that we don't want to face. We'd rather face the hormone or take the medication or do the thing, some kind of other manipulation, than face that really difficult, oh my God, I don't want to be a part of the situation anymore. That must have been so hard. Your children were, 10, 12 years old?
No. So this would have been 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago.
Okay.
And let me just say, nothing ever happened with this person.
Oh, right. Okay,
this person was sent to me.
That was just an awareness. Okay, got it.
Sent to me by the universe, again, because because my body was screaming at me that something was wrong and I wasn't paying attention. So this is my belief. The universe sent me someone to say, okay, but you're not broken.
Yes. Okay.
You're fine.
I see now
it's your relationship that's broken.
I got you.
And so that gave me a chance to take a pause and not that person, but what I was, the emotions that I was feeling. I took those home and thought, okay, I can work with this.
You want to feel fired up. You want to feel excited. You weren't having any of that, you noticed.
In my relationship?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if I actually don't know if that was ever there. It was maybe in the beginning.
Okay.
Maybe in the beginning.
Okay.
But
raising a child 4 months or within the year of meeting, that's intense, Maggie. Wow. Yeah. And if you realized you weren't a fit, you might have broke up at 6 months, but then you were 12 years together?
Yeah, 12 years.
Wow. So, and I want to really, thank you for sharing this really vulnerable information about yourself, Maggie, because I know that, it can't be the easiest thing to do, and you really are so courageous, but it really is really, really inspiring to others. And, my own parents, I come from a divorced family. My parents split up after they were together for 15 years. And even my children to this day are like, how was Gramsci and Puppy ever together? Because this does not seem like a thing. And now blended families and this, them marrying that and this, it's so different. And, but many times when people are young or when people have situations that they run into and find themselves, they do what they think is best. And 6 months turns into 6 years and onwards, right? And you, at some point when you were as far in as you were, you really looked at that situation and you said, I just can't do it any longer.
Exactly.
Talk to us a little bit about that, because I look at my own parents and I can't imagine actually getting to that definitive time when you say, we're splitting this whole situation. Like, that's just, I know, a nightmare from all intents and things I've heard about it. But here you are with some personal experience. I'd really love to hear if you are inclined to share, Maggie.
Yeah, there's only so much I can share on that, but needless to say, nobody else is involved. He didn't have anyone, I didn't have anyone. That was not the case at all.
Right.
The case was that something had happened. It's been 5 years now. And I quickly realized that his beliefs and his values did not fit in with mine in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And I'd asked him a couple of times, how long is this particular episode going to last? I'm not being very vague, but I can't say anything.
I think we can all imagine just someone, things happening in relationships and things that are going to put a cramp in your style, for sure. We've all been there. Bills or this or jobs.
Yeah, something happened. It didn't involve anybody else. Something happened, and my partner thought there might be a way for him to gain from this, let's just say. And so he changed. And I asked him a couple of times, like, is this forever? He's like, no, just until whatever is done. And I was like, okay, that does not gel with me. Like, if you can't be honest with me, then, this goes both ways.
Yeah.
And I couldn't change who I was. I was evolving, and I was moving into a different arena. I was moving into the wellness arena. I was moving into the energetic arena and, this health and wellness arena. And I had to be true to myself, to my beliefs, to what I stood true on, which is honesty, dependency, courageousness, fearlessness, and connection. And I wasn't getting that. And it was very evident that was not going to be the case in any time soon. And at that point, I realized that I can't compromise who I am for the rest of my life because of who you are. I need to be the example to my children. I need to be an example to me, and I need to live in a way that is authentic to me. And it was the hardest thing I think I've ever had to do. It took me weeks to gain the courage to even say the words. And I actually think we were discussing or arguing, probably not loudly, but, and I think the conversation was, well, are we done? And I said, yes. And I just thought to myself, wow, can't believe I just said that.
Good.
He said, really? I said, yes.
Yeah.
And my heart was beating, and I was terrified.
I have goosebumps just imagining you. But you said yes to you, Maggie.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It was a light bulb moment. And nobody should take that lightly, because it's a monumental thing that people do. Especially when, or potentially when, it doesn't involve somebody else. Somebody's been somebody else. Or there's a very definite, this is why it's happened.
Right.
It's a bit different when, you're doing this for yourself, and you're doing this for who you are.
Well, and you're setting that boundary for you, and you're stepping up and giving yourself permission to take care of you, right? To be that example for your kids in a way. And that, that is scary, because any kind of change, especially one that big, is so scary. But you knew that was what you had to do.
Yeah, and the strange thing was, or the funny thing is, I didn't have a job. Well, I had a part-time job that was 40 hours a month.
Okay.
I had no other job. I didn't have any clients at the time. I was trying to build my business. And I think I had $2,000 in my bank account, because we did not have a joint bank account. Everything was separate.
Oh, wow.
So for 12 years, that's what I managed to accumulate, was $2,000. That's all I had. I had nothing else.
Wow. That is a seriously intense situation to find yourself in. And you didn't choose the path of safety. You didn't choose the path of the comfort. And while there's no judgment on either side of things, of course, here, but you did something that you believed in so deeply for yourself and your boys that you were willing to do the consequence, right? You were willing to deal with the aftermath of that. So how are your hormones with this stressor, if I might ask?
They're wonderful now.
Yes.
My kids are normal. I sleep. I am, I feel the best I've felt in a very, very long time.
Wow.
And I celebrated with friends on Sunday, because that was my year of physically being in a separate place.
Okay.
And the things I've done in the past year, I haven't done in the past 12 years.
Oh, Maggie, really?
Yeah, it's been amazing. And it really shows you, A, what you're capable of, B, what you're willing to put up with, and C, what amazing friends you really do have.
Oh, I love that. And you know what? I was recently talking about this with a client of mine, actually, who, I was really encouraging her to lean on her friends. And it was remarkable how resistant she was, even with friends of decades, asking for help. One big, huge, scary step. Accepting it and receiving it in that way where you don't go, oh, I need to make it up. I need to buy them flowers. I need to go and take them out. I need to, that whole thing that comes with it, and just accepting and receiving that and saying thank you, and that being enough, and just taking the help. That's one of the most courageous and beautiful things that we can do. And I think there's so few of us who are willing to do that. And that's what gets us into these messes sometimes, where we overdo. We do for all the doing for everybody and all the do, and we leave ourselves in the literal doo-doo because we don't have anything left, right? Like, it's nuts.
Exactly.
It's nuts. It's totally nuts. And when we look at it in that way, we can see it in another sometimes before we can see it in ourselves. And Maggie, thank you for sharing this intimate stuff with us, because it really is so inspiring. I want to bring this around back to what you're doing right now, which is something I love. I'm a natural born journaler, and I love all things to do with filling in things, unless it's too much paperwork. I'm over the paperwork thing, but like filling in journals, up-leveling my life in some way, recording, noticing, improving, tracking, things that are valuable, things that are going to give me, an improvement in my life. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here with the Fit Mamas who are all here to learn more. And one of the things you do, Maggie, really well is share interesting and knowledgeable, clear, concise, and not complicated information about hormones. And you do this really eloquently. And I want to talk about your new book that is out, and I want you to talk a little bit about this to us, please, Maggie.
So yeah, I designed a personal wellness journal. It's called Courageously Create Your Life. And it's for anybody.
Courageously create your life.
Yes.
I love that.
Because that's what I did.
That word, courageously, courageous, that has come up so many times in this. I don't even think I knew the name of the journal. Wow.
That's my word. It's either courageous or fearless. I use them both.
I see why. Yeah.
And so I created this because when I was going through that transition period, it was really hard for me to stay focused, and for me to have a goal, and for me to realize that I am beautiful, I am successful, I am a loving friend. And by writing those down every day, that was affirmation that I am those things. And, it's taking care of myself, making sure, making sure that I have some sunshine, making sure that I've drunk my water, making sure that I value sleep, because 99.9% of the clients that I see do not value sleep as much as we could.
And our hormones love sleep. Oh, I know I love sleep too. I prioritize it.
And it's, when you reach sort of perimenopause, menopause, a lot of people struggle with it, and they just, most of the time when they come in, they just want something to help them go to sleep. And I'm like, you need to get to the root cause of why this is happening, because there isn't a pill that's going to help you do that without consequences. And so I love to give people this journal. It's a 30-day journal that they can either use with me, working with me privately, or they can use it on their own. They can get it as a standalone document. And I've included things like a quick reference guide. So it's things that you think that most people would know, but they actually don't. So it's things like, if you want to lose weight, stop eating by, let's say, 7 o'clock at night. And have till 7 o'clock in the morning. So you have, an intermittent fast, but you're asleep for most of it. That will really help with hormones, digestion, mindset. And it's things like doing random acts of kindness a day. It's just sort of it's a reminder just for you to read through little things that you're like, oh, I could totally add that into my day. It's nothing big. It's nothing that you need to go out and purchase other things for. These are all things that you can do, that you have, you're either capable of doing, or you already have in your possession, that you can start to do on a daily basis. It's going to help you feel better, be more courageous, and be more fearless in your life.
I love that. So we'll link up that in the show notes so people can see what that's all about. And I really like the idea of having that. Is it 30 days that you're recording along?
It's 30 days. And then every 7 days, you'll get a double page, and you'll be able to reflect back on your past 7 days. How have you been courageous in those 7 days? What have you learned about yourself? And then at the end of the journey, the 30-day one, it's sort of a collaboration of everything that you've learned, of your achievements, and how can you do that for the next 30 days. So I do this for a number of clients who find that it's very overwhelming. Everything is overwhelming. So we just stack things. We'll start off with, okay, all we're going to do this week is we're going to drink water. And then the next week, okay, all we're going to do is we're going to focus on getting up at this time. So if you stack things one on top of the other, it's not so overwhelming and it's more achievable.
Totally, because it can be overwhelming, and nobody's looking to add more things in their schedule. But I know having something like that journal to tuck in at night and record a few things from your day and reflect. I really like reflection and that aspect of gratitude and kindness, because those things have such an impact on our biochemistry, but it's not so widely known. It's like, eat more kale, eat more spinach, whatever. Great advice, But if you're thinking angry or mad or raging thoughts all day and you're, snapping left, right, and center, you can eat all the kale till the cows come home and your body is probably going to hit a disease state soon enough, right? So I really like that you're highlighting that, and that I think is really impactful, Maggie. Maggie, we're going to hook up everything here in the show notes so that people can connect with you, find you online, get in know of what's all going on for you. You're a really inspiring fit mama. So thank you for being here as a guest. Anything you want to share before we end this podcast today, Maggie?
I guess a couple of things. One would be, go visit me on my website, MaggieChilton.com. There's lots of interesting things going on there. I'm just launching a beta program, which is, it's dedicated to all the women that I've worked with in the past, because they have taught me so much. Every single client that comes to see me, I learn something from. And, they can say, thank you so much. It's amazing. I'd love to come and see you. And I say, but you don't realize that I'm learning from you. So I'm getting something from this as well. And, I think the biggest takeaway for me, and if I can inspire some women who are in the same sort of situation, is to really let the courage and the fearlessness grow inside of them, and know that everything is going to be okay on the other side. I'm living proof that you can have the life of your dreams. It just takes that leap of faith and that step. This is a bit of a side note, but I was, my partner and I, we were common law. We were not married. So I was not entitled to anything. So it's not like, I've come away with a lot of things, and I have, I had to start from the basics. So just know that if you make that decision that you want to live your life, even if it's just something you want to change, know that you can do it. You just have to make the choice, and you have to say yes to you, and anything is possible.
I love that wisdom. That's beautifully well put. Thank you, Maggie. Thank you for your time and your wisdom. We really appreciate you.
Thank you for letting me join into the Fit Mama crowd. I'm excited.
Of course. Thank you. Have a great day, Fit Mama. See you soon.
Bye.
How awesome was that interview, right? Maggie is so inspirational. She's really a wealth of information as well. She has so much knowledge around hormones, nutrition, how to actually have you implementing strategies that work for you and your body, and as well being a courageous human, which I love that she talks about. I want to add one more thing to this interview that she let me know about, and I want to pass on to you, that she is offering her Courageous Empowerment Sessions, which are usually almost $200. These are under $100 right now, so you can live your most courageous life in 2020. She's going to help you answer some questions around your aspirations for this year, and all kinds of details about how to actually get into action to make these things a reality for you. This will be some private one-on-one coaching with Maggie, and it's really about creating a personal plan that you can implement. So she is having amazing sessions for you to get in right now. Those are going to be linked up in the show notes as well. And I'm so grateful Maggie was on this podcast today, sharing and inspiring. I'm so glad you have been here, and you inspire me, Fit Mama, to continue sharing and inspiring as well. Thank you so much. Thank you to Maggie for being here. Have a great day, Fit Mama. Namaste.